Hey everyone, it's Isimemen Joby here, business and career growth strategist, and I am here with the incredible Yasmin Hart. She is a recent graduate of our Fulfilled program, and she is going to talk to us about her incredible journey, her transformation, and her landing a dream job. Yasmin, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to just talk about my journey through Fulfilled.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Yasmin, can you tell us what is your current role? You're going to tell us about your new juicy role soon,
All
but
right.
just tell us about your current role.
So current role, I work in higher education with Rice University. My internal title is Baker College Coordinator. That's a
Okay,
whole nother story. But for all intents and purposes, to get a better understanding of what my day-to-day job responsibilities look like, I'm an operations manager.
nice. Okay, cool. So you're an ops manager, and give us a little
Mhm.
bit of background. Just hit us with some thoughts. Like, what is your degree in, and how many years of work experience do you have?
Okay, well, I got my bachelor's degree in sociology and I minored in public health. I want to say as a junior, that's when I decided that I actually wanted to pursue public health as a career. So
Mm,
I went on to get my master's degree. However, I will say that I don't think I did an adequate job utilizing the resources that was in that institution when
yeah,
I was there and just kind of got saddled into higher education doing some program management work. And the pandemic happened, so I kind of just stayed there because it was stable versus utilizing that time to kind of do what a lot of other people were doing, which is acquiring different skills so that they could pivot.
yeah,
So after having my son, I found myself continuing to stay in higher education, not because I necessarily sought to stay there, because it was safe, to be honest with you. I've been there, I had done that, and I even settled for a salary that I was not trying to go for it at all simply because it was comfortable. I didn't know how to manage being a mom and also having a career, but also I think a lot of it, went deeper than that. It kind of went to, what did I believe about myself? What did I believe about my abilities? Not kind of
yeah.
taking into consideration a lot of the things that I actually accomplished. And that's the reason why I settled. And so I remember being like sitting in my chair, the same chair I'm sitting in right now, and I was just depressed, to be
Mm,
honest with you.
mm,
Kind of feeling boggled down, not realizing or trying, not really fully understanding why I was feeling the way I just was unhappy, to put it very clear. And I didn't know how to articulate that. I didn't fully understand where it was coming from, but I knew I was not satisfied where I
mm,
was in life. And I think, having my son and then taking some time off kind of emphasized that because I realized like, dang, I'm not where I want to be. I knew going in that I settled for this position. Like I couldn't move away from that acknowledgement.
yeah,
And I remember coming across the field more than once. This probably was my second or third time coming across it. And I just was like, and I have been talking to my husband since I had seen it the last time because I went to the website about like, hey, I think I really need some direction. I think I really need, this is missing from you right now. And so when I saw it again, I just was like, okay, let me book my consultation call. And I remember talking to you and I felt like you saw that struggle in me, that like I don't know, that pain that kind of just was sitting there, and you were like, you gotta be willing to make that jump. And I remember calling my husband and being like, this is what I want to do, because I remember you encouraged me to do that, to say, hey, you need to, if this is something, you got to fight for you, and you have to ask your husband to fight alongside you as well. And
good.
you know I remember calling him, going for a walk, and just telling him how much I needed this
Mm,
type of support. And after a walk, and it's crazy because it's by the grace of God, he literally just was like, okay. Because at first he was like, first he was like, I don't think we can afford to do this right now. But he literally, at the end of the conversation, just was like, all right, and we went forward with it.
Yasmin, it's so funny you say that because I speak to a lot of married women who want to come into fulfilled, but then they leave the answer in their husband's hands. And the women who are married and come into fulfilled, the conversations that they have, they either just join because they are in a place where they're like, listen, I'm empowered enough to do this. My husband trusts me. I'm doing this for me. I know if I can better myself, I'll better my family. And they just go. Or they'll be like, okay, EC, let's just pause the call. Let me call my husband. And they're like, babe, I need to do this for me. So the women who come in and they increase their salary, they get the clarity, they transform their lives. They don't do the, oh, let me ask my husband. okay, I can't do it. No, they're like, babe, I need this for us. I need this for me. I need you to fight with me. I need you to trust me. And the women who have said that to their husbands are like, go for it. We'll figure out, go for it. I support you. And then they have the support and they run. So I love that about you, Yasmin, that you fought for yourself. You didn't come into the program making six figures and, oh, Richie Rich. You're like, you know what, I'm gonna make it work. And before you came in, Yasmin, like, what were your struggles? I know you talked about being depressed and unhappy, being in higher education. You never planned for that. You kind of just stumbled into it, which is the worst. So there was no purpose behind it. Can you just tell me, what were you feeling before you came across Fulfilled in our conversation?
Honestly, I was feeling hopeless a lot. I think it was a lot of lack of confidence in myself and a lack of confidence in my abilities. And also just strategically not knowing how to go about marketing myself, actually picking positions that align with me. I don't forget in a program where you were just like, you shouldn't be picking anything. Like, this is not necessarily a numbers game. It's about picking positions that actually align with what it is that you're trying to do. And it don't have to be that hard or that random. And never really thought about, dang, I'm really coming across as not being focused, kind of being all over the place. And like, I think people who hiring managers being able to sense that, because I can't speak to the value that I'm able to add, because this is not something I'm just doing it just to be here, not necessarily because this makes sense for me. So honestly, it was just a lot of hopelessness, a lot of like self-doubt. I mean, extreme self-doubt. And really just not being happy and just not knowing how to like get out of that place,
Mm,
to be honest,
mm,
because I didn't feel like I had a whole lot of people around me to offer some form of guidance
of
in
course.
regards to that. And I
Wow.
was good.
No, you go ahead and finish,
Yeah, and
please.
I was saying, I think one thing that also made me gravitate so heavily to Fulfilled is that it was faith-based. And so,
Mm,
you know, we started with mindset, but we also started about changing um, how we see ourselves, how we, you know, what are we basing our identity off of?
yes.
And that is what, you know, because I was like, God, this is it. Like, you know, these are the people that should be a part of my journey, because they're not just talking about this outside of, it's not just career, it's about you focusing an aspect of yourself, but then also focusing on your career, how you transcend both of those spaces. It was, so that's the thing that got me excited, because I was like, she preaching, like she's able to tie these two things together. It's not separate. And that's
Yes.
what I need to see, how it's not separate from me as well.
Come on. And that's one thing we always say about Fulfilled. You will never see another program like ours. And we stand 10 toes down on that. We are focused on self, wealth, and faith. And so for you, Yasmin, you come in the room, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling hopeless. You have the conversation. You decide that I'm going to invest in myself at this level. Hubby's on board. And then you start the journey. Talk to me about what was the journey of Fulfilled like for you? And also share what were some of your biggest wins that you experienced. And we'll get to the dream role. We'll get there. But like just watching you change and transform, because you changed in this program. You came in quiet and low self-esteem, lack of confidence to, oh, EC, I'm talking to this person, I'm doing, and I'm just like, is this Yasmin? So talk to me about what was the journey like for you?
It was exciting, but it was bumpy. And I think part of that comes from the fact that, you know, in life, you're not going to always have these high moments. You're going to go through stuff. Life is going to be life, and at times, but even in the midst of that, you continue to push forward, you continue to go. And that is something that I really had to, you know, sit with and wrestle with, and being like, okay, it's not going to always be good all the time. But that doesn't mean that I stop betting on myself. I stop pouring into myself in any capacity, or I stop being, you know, or fulfilling every respective position I have responsibility for. And I
Mhm.
think that is something I had to tell myself. So in the beginning, when we started with the mindset module, I think that is where I was able to, I think, first encounter that. Not just like some of the things that I think were stemming from my background and my childhood that were surfacing up, but also realizing that like you have the abilities and the capabilities to endure and still do
Mhm.
what you got to do. And
Mhm.
so I would say that is the biggest thing I had to struggle with throughout my fulfilled journey. And also being okay with being uncomfortable, which I
That's
which
the whole
I
program.
really, the whole program, like the beginning part, and have to acknowledge some things that you may not want to acknowledge about yourself, but also when you're putting yourself out there, not being so overly concerned with everybody's perception of who you are, but more so being like, hey, I know who I am. All right. And I know whose I am, and I'm going to like push forward. I'm going to present myself. I remember networking was the most uncomfortable or weirdest thing for me, to be honest. Just going and talking to people and being like, okay, what I'm supposed to say, like, well, how I'm supposed to go about doing this. It was weird at first. Like I just was like, I don't know what is she talking about? Just randomly message people. And so yeah, I would say that was one of the hardest moments for me, was just actually physically going out and being okay talking with a plethora of different people, especially men. I wouldn't say in leadership roles as a woman. Like
Mm.
that was an interesting dynamic for me. Like I remember going into one of my informational interviews and being uncomfortable at first. But I remember I had to sit with myself before and being like, why? Like, why are you uncomfortable? But also telling myself that this person is no different than I am. Like
Mm.
I'm not less than they are. I can come to this conversation, approach this conversation, and be exactly who I am and get what
Yeah,
I need from it.
come
And
on.
so it's just like some of those internal biases, those battles that I think I had to face as I was coming, across them.
Yeah.
I would say the second hardest part for me, which took the longest, had to have been the joyful job search.
Yeah.
I was overthinking that so bad. Oh my
And it
gosh.
was like, stop overthinking, but you had to go through the process and you went through Joyful Job in such a thorough way that you know with your full chest, this is what I want to do next. And then you're taking that confidence and that clarity into your informational interviews, into your actual interviews, into your conversations, and people are just so drawn to you because you know what
Yeah.
you want.
It was so insightful to actually go through that process. And I remember my husband being like, okay, so you don't want to do nursing anymore? You want to develop your skills in data analytics? And I was like, yes, but I was able to tell him exactly where it stemmed from
Yeah.
because I saw evidence of it being presented and work that I had done before. And I was like crazy because I'm like, man, I had never thought about myself as a data analytics person. Like I didn't do that. And now and I had to say, like, who told you that you couldn't do that?
Mm.
Where to what degree or where did I limit myself there? So be able to see that and acknowledge that that is a skill set that I have and a skill set that I wanted to develop was exciting for me because it
Yeah.
offers direction that's not confusion. It's not muddled and
It's
confusion.
clear. It's
It is
clear.
clear.
Yasmin, what were some of your biggest wins in the program? Like times you felt most successful, things you celebrate. You're like, Yasmin, is this really you? Like, what's really happening? So what's going on? What were some of those wins?
I would have to say for me, it was toward the end where I was going through the hiring process for like 5 different positions. And I never sat down and thought about it. I just was like, a majority of them literally came from networking. So, for example, I was so adamant about getting into working with the Harris County Public Health Department here in Houston. And when I say I was networking with everybody across different departments, trying to find a way inside of this organization. And, it was exciting to see that it started to pan out. I probably talked to about 30, 40, 50 people just in that one organization alone because I
You
was
better,
that.
Yasmin. And that's the funny thing. People start to circulate your name. You start to build a reputation before you even get there. And that's one thing we talk about fulfilled. We always say you're one connection away. And we always say talk to multiple people in the company. And because you've done the foundational work with your mindset, you've done Golden Triangle, so you know your skills, you know your strengths, you know what you bring to the table. You've done Joyful Jobs, so you know what you want. So when you
Mhm.
speak to people, they're just like, oh my gosh, your confidence is oozing out of every pore. And now you're talking to multiple people in the same organization, your name starts to come up. Oh my
I'm
God.
guessing.
Okay, so go.
And
So
I
you're
remember,
talking to
nah,
everyone.
yeah, I remember you telling me that. I remember when you were just like, when you're applying for a job, you need to be connecting with like 20, 30 people in that organization at different levels. And it's like, being taught that is one thing going through the fulfilled problem, but when you execute it and you start to see it, like, all right, you see know what she's talking about.
I do. I do.
So yeah, so that was a very exciting moment for me. It was really exciting just to be there because I think that was a mental way that I proved to myself that I am capable of showing up. I'm capable of acquiring the salary that I want. I'm capable of accomplishing all of these different goals that I have for myself, for my family. And I remember telling my husband, and I said this with my whole chest, I was like, I'm gonna make $100,000.
You're here.
And he was just like, okay. And it is because I will say like that sense of like confidence, but also realizing that I have the capacity to shift and change and mold how I see fit. Like I don't, I'm not regulated by where I am or what decisions, things don't happen or do happen.
Yasmin, just pause me. This is the value of fulfilled, right? What you said. It's beyond the job. You are never going to be the same again. When you want to let's say you want to get a new role in 2 years or in 18 months, you know what to do. Wash, rinse, repeat. You know how to get clarity. You know how to have conversations. You know how to talk to people with your full chest. You will never under earn. You will never be confused. You will never be out of alignment again because you've gotten the skills and you can apply them for the rest of your life. You just said, EC, there are no limits on me. What do you mean? I can just acquire information and acquire skills and I can change anything I want about my life at any time. Yasmin, do you know how many people do not believe that? And you didn't even believe that before you stepped in the world.
No, did not.
You're like, I can literally, by God's grace, create my own future. And that's what you ended up doing because then you got this job. Tell us, how did you get it? What happened? What did you from the program?
Okay, so I remember explaining this in one of our coaching calls, but the position that I applied for with Harris County Public Health, initially I applied for this position and I didn't even make it past the evaluation, like the first round with the ATS system at all. And not necessarily because my resume wasn't optimized, it literally is because toward the end they asked you 2 questions. And one of the questions they specifically was asking if you had the experience in Harris County. And I was like, I have this experience, but I don't have it here. So I clicked no, sent it off, had an information interview with one of the people that was in that office, was able to chat with her, build rapport with her. And I remember telling her, oh yeah, I applied for one of the positions in your office. And she said, what position did you apply for? And I told her, she sent me a follow-up email after our meeting. And she just was like, I went and checked for your application. I didn't see it in the eligible hire list. And I ended up sending her my resume and also like 3 highlights or achievements that I had and told her.
Hold on, Yasmin. Slow down. So you sent her the resume that fulfilled, flipped for you because we have your resume and then we take it to the next level. And not only did you send her the resume, you're just like, by the way, let me make sure you understand that I'm your girl. I'm your answered prayer and I will annihilate and own that position. Let me highlight these 3 juicy things I've done.
Yes. And then I made sure to make sure, I made sure that they aligned with the job description. And so she she literally was like, okay, I'm going to pass this to my hiring manager. Also, I'm going to contact HR, have you redo the application so that it can go past ATS. And I remember being like, okay. And she was like, if HR doesn't get back to you, let me know. I said, all right. So HR contacted me maybe like 2 days later. I redid the application, answered the question differently so that it can make it pass. And then literally, maybe not even like 2 to 3 days later, they called me and it's just like, oh, we want to schedule an interview. And I was like, oh, is this a screening? She was like, no, this is an interview. And I was like, wait, because I'm used to usually, because typically they would do a job screening and then, you go down the line. But she was like, no, this isn't an interview. She was like, do you want to have the interview the next day? And I'm like, sure, that's fine. So I scheduled an interview for the very next day, interviewed with her along with, I think 3 or 4 other people. And then the following week they called offering me the position. So it was just, the dynamic of that was crazy to think that it was a position that I initially didn't even pass the initial screening for, to be skipped to an interview without having to do the job screening simply because I had a conversation with one person. And so that, I really was just like, man, I was sleeping on networking. I don't know what I was thinking about before this moment, but I was just like, wow, literally through the power of having one conversation with one person turned the entire trajectory of that application process around. Yeah. So
I mean, this is what we preach and this is what we teach. And the thing is, when we're networking and fulfilled, we do authentic networking. where we leave the person we're speaking to so impressed with us, they think about ways to help us.
Mm-hmm.
When you had that conversation with that woman, she was impressed by you. So when you slid in, oh yeah, I applied, she wasn't like, oh, that's too bad, you know, or I'm sorry, maybe you should try again. She's like, oh, no. What you mean you applied to what? They rejected you? What was the application for? Because you had shared the right things with her in that conversation. It's not just about networking, it's doing it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Yasmin, so did you end up negotiating when you got the offer? Were you like, oh,
I did. Oh my gosh, I did negotiate. And although there was not necessarily a jump in salary, I love the practice of it because I was so uncomfortable doing it. But I told myself, I was like, you have to do it because if you don't ask, you're not going to receive. And who's
yes.
to say that you won't, get what it is that you're asking for? And also the practice of being able to explain why I feel like I needed that amount that I was asking for. So even if, it didn't go exactly in that route, which I was perfectly fine with because y'all taught us, hey, you put your highest amount as your minimum. I was perfectly fine with the initial salary, but I just was like, I want to practice negotiating. Like I want to have that experience. And like I said, sit in that being uncomfortable. And I think that is what I'm learning to be. Just be uncomfortable going through these processes to normalize it. And I would say like that's probably one of the biggest benefits of being going through the field has taught me. It's just like don't
That's
be afraid to move.
that's it. And that's where all the growth happens, is in the discomfort.
Mhm.
And what I love about you negotiating, it's a government position, right? So government positions, the numbers are locked down to the cents, basically, right? But you
Mhm.
didn't say, oh, it's a government position. Because you have a new mindset that's elastic, that's like, well, anything is possible. You're like, oh, I'm still gonna ask. I'm still not gonna negotiate. And when promo comes around, because I know you're gonna stay with us and do the, fulfill next level,
Mhm.
come in as in this our next level program and continue to get coaching for your role, you're going to ask during promo, you're still going to ask for a bigger number because you're going to do awesome. And when it's time for promo, you're going to ask for the top of the demand.
Yep.
You're going to be so impressed
Yep.
with that by God's grace, you're going to get that. So I just love seeing your mindset at work, Yasmin. Like, it's amazing. I would love to know for you, what was like your favorite part of Fulfill? Like, we have a lot of components. We rewrite your resume on LinkedIn. We have coaching. We have the community. We have the curriculum and the videos and the scripts and the templates and the check-ins. And like, it's a well-rounded, all-encompassing program. I would like to know for you, what part was your favorite?
I would just say my favorite part is the coaching calls. And I feel like a lot of people say this.
Everyone says it.
It's because you have an opportunity to be around like-minded women who are trying, like you said, we are all trying to work past these essentially these blockers, these
Yeah.
walls that we put up. And so to hear like, man, I'm not the only person dealing with some of these internal demons. I'm not the only person facing this. It normalizes it for you, but it also offers you encouragement. And I think, that's one of the things that I was lacking as well. It's just like there wasn't a lot of examples around me of women who were actually trying to work past some of these limiting factors that they conditioned themselves to believe. Like I wasn't around a lot of people who were doing
Mm,
that. And so it was nice to like be in a space where I am really engaging with some phenomenal people, but also to hear and celebrate other people's wins when I see them implementing what it is that we've all been taught. So I
yeah,
think being a part of that, like playing off of each other, speaking to each other, encouraging each other is a beautiful space to be in, honestly.
absolutely. Man, Yasmin. I would love to hear. I mean, people love the coaching calls, and you know how we coach is a little bit of dragging, a little bit of is a little bit of teaching. It's all encompassing because we coach and we consult, right? So we teach you how to think, and we also directly answer your questions, give
Yeah.
you strategy, give you step by step, give you feedback. So I love it. It's really a special place. For you, Yasmin, what would you say to the woman who's on the fence, who doesn't know, like, should I do this? Should I invest? I just had a baby. I got this going on. All the things, right? What would you say to her about coming into the room?
I think the first thing I will say to that person is you are your greatest investment. If
Mm,
you are lacking on filling your cup and supporting yourself, then you don't have the capacity then therefore to pour into others, other
yeah.
people in your life, your family, your kids. all of these different things, you're going to be limited there because you haven't addressed yourself at all. So I just was like, this, you have to be willing to invest in yourself. You
Mhm.
have to, have to, have to. And I know that sounds scary. I know it sounds like impossible sometimes, but like it's literally a step of faith, to be honest. And knowing that you're going to try to get out whatever it is that you're investing, you're
Yes.
going to try to get the best out of it. But I want to say that was probably one of the things that I really had to come to terms with, just as an adult in general, as a woman, being like, as a professional, as a mom, as a wife, like you have to be willing to invest in yourself so that you can pour out to others, so that you can give, but you can't give from a deprived and empty space at all. And I mean, I remember sitting with my husband, and like I told you before, the investment we made compared to the outcome, it is incomparable. And I really had to tell myself, like, to think that I would even consider skipping over this was crazy.
Mm,
you
mm.
know, I'm like, I wouldn't have been able to get to this point, and there's still a lot of work to be done. But Lord knows I'm so grateful. I wouldn't have been able to get to this point unless I went through something like this, unless I went through a program such as Fulfilled, because I took a chance on myself. My husband took a chance on me, and y'all supported me. You really, really poured into me, helped me pull out a lot of things that, it's very easy to keep hidden, to be
Yeah,
honest, things that were impacting me. And I didn't even realize it was impacting me. So,
we go there.
yeah, you for real, but you need somebody to go there. Like you need that. You definitely need that. So if you're struggling, like I was struggling, you're feeling, I like you said, unfulfilled, to put it candidly. If you're feeling like deprived, like something is missing, I'm like, pray about it, because God knows I was praying about it, and I'm like, step in faith, because that's literally what it is.
Yeah.
It's stepping in faith. And so that's what I would encourage anybody to do, is take that chance, bet on themselves, and be faithful, because God is faithful. So, but it means following the instruction that He's giving you.
Yeah. And stepping into the room, because many people have been praying for two,
Yes.
and then they get on the call with me and they have the opportunity to walk through the door, and then they start essentially stepping back from their blessing.
Oh,
It's like
yeah.
looking for, this is what you needed, and we've wrapped it up and put it in a perfect little package for you, and we've given it to you. For you, Yasmin, you didn't tell us about the new job, the perks. So what was your salary increase? What do you love about this new role? What's the title? You said that you're trying to do what you love. Talk to us about that.
So the title was Community Health and Design Specialist. It's with the Built Environment Unit with Harris County Public Health. So I got my degree in public health with my concentration was in environmental and occupational health. So it aligns in that way. So one of the things I wanted to do was just get back to doing public health work, front facing public health work, versus just working in the institution of higher education. So I was excited about getting working with the Harris County Public Health Department specifically. And then their benefits are really well. I mean, comprehensive health package. I was like, that's probably cheaper than what I'm paying, with my husband is
Absolutely.
paying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna retire from this place, but they have a really good retirement package. Like literally, you can walk out of their retirement package being a millionaire. So I literally had a conversation, like informational interviews with several people, and one of the girls was just like, people do not retire here when you get into upper management, because when you leave, she was like, when you leave, you are leaving, because they do like an 8% match. So
Yasmin, see, oh my gosh, I wish I could just jump through the screen. You did informational interviews, so you got the TT. You got the
mhm.
inside, the what's what. So that's why I tell people informational interview, so you really understand what is on ground, what you have available to you. If you stay at this organization, you might really enjoy it. And then you continue to grow, and your salary is growing every year, and you're advocating for yourself, and you're getting yourself visual, like visibility to the right people. And of course, we're coaching you on how to work smarter, not harder. So you have great work-life balance, and you're doing well. You blink before you know it, your 401k is looking crazy because of 8% match. And you're popping that money in there as well. And
Yeah,
things are going nuts. Like, how many companies can say they do 8%?
not a lot. Not a lot. I think another thing that really spoke to me is that one of the things I asked was just about work-life balance, and asking like, hey, I have to pick up my son, for example, from daycare. I need this amount of time to be able to do that. And them being able to say, yes, we're a family friendly company, blah, blah, blah. we can give you time to accommodate that. So it's just like, usually I feel like before I would never ask that type of question because I'm like, I gotta stick to fit what they need. But being able to say no, I also need you to be able to fit what I need as well.
Come on, fulfill.
So,
They need you just as
mhm,
much as you desire to work with them. They need you. And I can imagine how many hundreds of applicants were in the pool, but because you networked, they could put a
mhm,
face to the name and they're like, oh, this woman just made our life easier. This is exactly what we're looking for.
mhm.
I love that they're accommodating you picking up your son because as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, as a woman of God, your family is important to you. And
Yeah.
a fulfilled life for us is not working to death or making 200K, but you can't even enjoy your money or enjoy your family. We're about being rounded, well-rounded. What do you actually want from your life? So yeah,
Mhm,
to see you building a life you love, you're doing work that you love, you're making 20K more than you were making before. You are being exposed to a retirement plan that's setting you up to be a millionaire. Your husband's on track with you. You're able to pick up your baby from daycare. You're going into this company knowing dozens of people already. So you're not coming in brand new. They already know
mhm.
you because you've had so many conversations. So you've pre-built your reputation. You sound like you're living a fulfilled life and you're
Yeah.
confident. And you've taken the chains off of what's possible for you.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for what's next here.
Yasmin, thank you so much. I don't know if there's anything else you want to share, any last words you have for us before we wrap up.
Nah, besides, I'm excited for tonight's coaching call.
Oh, right. I will see you tonight, Yasmin. Thank you so much for sharing your story and being here. Blessings. This is just the beginning.
Exactly. All right, you see.